Every day, more than 100 lives are cut short by gunfire in the United States. From mass shootings that dominate headlines to daily tragedies in homes and streets, the impact of gun violence is undeniable. Advocates for stricter gun control point to these devastating statistics as evidence of the urgent need for reform. They argue that easy access to firearms, including high-powered weapons, fuels this crisis. On the other side, proponents of gun rights argue that the Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms for self-defense and protection against tyranny. They maintain that responsible gun ownership is a deterrent to crime and that restricting access to firearms would only penalize law-abiding citizens. The debate over guns in America is complex, rooted in deeply held beliefs about individual rights, government authority, and the nature of safety and security. If you found this information valuable, please share this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the reminder bell to stay updated on our latest content. At the heart of the gun control debate lies a fundamental disagreement about the role of firearms in society. For some, guns are seen primarily as tools of violence, instruments of death that have no place in a civilized society. Others view guns as essential tools for self-defense, a means of protection against criminals and a safeguard against government overreach. They argue that the Second Amendment is a cornerstone of American liberty and that any attempt to restrict gun ownership is an infringement on their fundamental rights. This divide is often painted in stark binary terms: pro-gun versus anti-gun, Second Amendment absolutists versus those who believe in strict gun control. But the reality is far more nuanced, with a spectrum of beliefs on responsible gun ownership and regulation. Understanding the deeply held beliefs and values that inform both sides is essential to having a productive conversation about gun control. One of the most contentious arguments in the gun control debate centers around the relationship between gun ownership and crime rates. Proponents of gun rights assert that more guns equal less crime, arguing that armed citizens deter criminals. They point to instances where individuals have used firearms to defend themselves as evidence that guns make us safer. Opponents counter that more guns lead to more opportunities for violence, both intentional and accidental. They cite studies showing that states with higher rates of gun ownership also tend to have higher rates of gun violence. The debate over the more guns, less crime hypothesis is often fueled by cherry-picked statistics and anecdotal evidence. The relationship between gun ownership and crime is complex, influenced by socioeconomic conditions, cultural norms, and law enforcement effectiveness. To truly understand the impact of guns on crime, we need rigorous research that examines the issue from multiple angles. Behind the statistics and policy debates are real people whose lives have been irrevocably touched by gun violence. We hear stories of survivors who credit their survival to the quick thinking of armed citizens and homeowners who used firearms to defend themselves. These stories remind us that guns can save lives and that for some, the right to own a firearm is synonymous with the right to protect themselves. But we also hear heartbreaking stories from the other side. Parents who lost children to accidental shootings, victims of domestic violence, and bystanders caught in the crossfire. These are not just statistics, they are real people with real stories, and their experiences should inform our understanding of this complex issue. The United States stands apart from most developed nations in its rates of gun ownership and gun violence. In many European and Asian nations, strict gun control measures, including bans on certain types of firearms and rigorous background checks, are the norm. These countries often have significantly lower rates of gun violence compared to the United States. However, cultural factors, socioeconomic conditions, and other variables also contribute to these differences. Some countries, like Switzerland, have high rates of gun ownership due to mandatory military service, but maintain strict regulations on firearms. Examining gun policies and outcomes in other countries highlights the diversity of approaches to gun control and the need for nuanced, evidence-based solutions. While the debate over access to firearms rages on, it is crucial to acknowledge the significant role that mental health plays in many instances of gun violence. Individuals with untreated mental illness, particularly those prone to violence or suicidal ideations, are statistically more likely to be involved in gun-related incidents. Expanding access to mental health care, reducing stigma, and providing early intervention programs are essential components of a comprehensive strategy to reduce gun violence. However, it's important to avoid stigmatizing mental illness as the sole or primary cause of gun violence. Efforts to improve mental health services should go hand in hand with addressing other contributing factors, such as poverty, inequality, and the glorification of violence in media. A holistic approach that tackles the root causes of violence, promotes mental well-being, and fosters safer communities is essential. The debate over gun control often centers around the efficacy of legislation in curbing gun violence. Supporters of stricter gun laws argue that common-sense measures, such as universal background checks and red flag laws, can help keep guns out of the wrong hands. They point to the success of certain gun control measures in other countries as evidence that legislative action can make a difference. Opponents argue that criminals disregard laws and that restricting access to firearms for law-abiding citizens will do little to stop those intent on committing violence. They contend that efforts to enforce existing gun laws and address underlying social issues, such as poverty and gang violence, would be more effective. More rigorous, evidence-based research is needed to determine which gun control measures are most effective in reducing gun violence without infringing on the rights of responsible gun owners. The gun control debate in America is often characterized by polarization, but finding common ground is essential if we are to make progress in reducing gun violence. While deeply held beliefs and strong emotions on both sides can make compromise challenging, there are areas of potential agreement. One such area is the need for more effective mental health services. Both gun rights advocates and gun control advocates can agree that addressing the mental health crisis in America is crucial to preventing gun violence. Another area of potential consensus is the importance of keeping guns out of the hands of those who pose a danger to themselves or others. This could involve strengthening background checks and supporting red flag laws. Finding common ground requires respectful dialogue and a willingness to listen to and understand perspectives that differ from our own. The impact of gun violence extends far beyond the immediate victims and their families, casting a long shadow over communities and society as a whole. The economic costs alone are staggering, with billions of dollars spent each year on medical care, law enforcement, and lost productivity. But the true cost of gun violence cannot be measured in dollars and cents alone. There are the intangible costs, the fear and anxiety that permeate communities, the erosion of trust in institutions, and the sense of hopelessness that can take root. Gun violence also has a profound impact on children and youth. Exposure to gun violence can have long-lasting effects on their development, mental health, and educational attainment. Addressing the root causes of gun violence requires a multi-pronged approach that goes beyond simply regulating firearms. Navigating the complexities of the gun control debate requires more than just understanding the statistics and arguments. It demands active engagement and a commitment to finding solutions. Your voice matters. Share your experiences, your concerns, and your ideas on how we can create a safer and more peaceful society. Engage in respectful dialogue with those who hold differing viewpoints, seeking common ground and understanding. Educate yourself on the issues, the research, and the proposed solutions. The path to reducing gun violence in America will be long and challenging, but by working together, we can create a future where everyone feels safe and secure.